That's for the committee to decide.
That's it. That's exactly it. And the greatest line ever is, I think Arnold Palmer said, or Jack. It was either Arnold or Jack once said, a committee needs to be an odd number and three's too many.
Hey everyone, this is the GRQ Podcast, episode 139. I'm Blakey. It's presented by Golf.AI, as you know. If you haven't been on Golf.AI, used it yet, get on it. You can get it on the web, you can get it on WhatsApp, or you can even just call up in the US, the UK, and Australia. We all have landline numbers for them. So give Golf.AI a call, especially if you're a pro shop. I've got a special guest this week. We've had him on before, and he's just been fantastic to speak to. Jason R. Smith from Texas, co-authored with Woodrow. Yep.
Yeah.
A guide to being a golf rules official, and it is fantastic. So if you are looking to become a rules official, that's definitely the first place you go. Don't even go to the rules. Just go straight to a guide to being a rules official, and then it'll teach you about the rules as well as where to go to find, rulings and stuff like that. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is all about how to be a rules official or just how to know the rules.
Yes.
Welcome, Jason. It's great to have you back.
Hey, thanks, Blakey. Man, I just love it. I love your stuff, and it's an honor to be on here. And bless you, we're on two different sides of the earth doing this, which is just absolutely amazing. I won't tell you right now, I'm actually in Guthrie, Oklahoma. I officiated this morning the Junior Byron Nelson, the final round of the Junior Byron Nelson in Dallas. Quickly drove home, and I've got a wedding tomorrow up here in Guthrie. And so I drove all the way to Guthrie, just right next to Oklahoma State Stillwater, who just won the national championship in golf. Some of the fabulous players, Stratton Nolan and Alan Bratton, the coaches up there, just super great. I was officiated the Big 12. Golf is inside of me going like crazy. We've got so much going on. The NCAA's just finished up. The men's and women just finished theirs up here in the United States. Oklahoma State won the men's, and just phenomenal. The great kids. 3 of the boys of the 5 on the team are from Texas, and kids that I've grown up at junior golf knowing. I'm sitting there texting them while they're playing at the Omni Resort, and that was fabulous. And then we got the U.S. Open here in another week, and so in Texas we got the Texas Am, which is a huge state thing going on. We got a lot going on right now, and golf is fabulous. So let's dive into some ClubLand.
That is awesome. Well, actually, let's talk about how to learn the rules. So we'll get some ClubLand questions. Definitely, we've got some lined up. But I know you're into music. You're a music teacher, and we went through your story of how you learnt the rules, and then you got yourself involved in volunteering and stuff like that. And that's actually, just as a tangent, all these tournaments that you referee at, do you do them volunteer, or do you get a little bit of a payback, just to cover expenses, or you get paid full time?
No, I would say 95% or 99% of the rules officiating that I do is all volunteer. I did the Big 12 this year. The Big 12 covers our expenses, and they're really nice to us and good to us and everything else. So Kim Ricci, when you hear that, make sure you note that I said that y'all were awesome for us and y'all took care of us and everything else, so that you have me back in the future. That's always a good one. But everything we do with the USGA is all volunteer. Everything that we do with our Texas Golf Association is all volunteer. And they buy us lunch. They give us a lot of swag. We get a lot of shirts and hats, and we're very blessed for that. And but it's just people that love golf. They love seeing great golf, and they get passionate about the rules. And you start getting involved with your allied association, and you start networking, and the next thing you know, you're on a USGA committee, and you're running tournaments for USGA, and the USGA after 25 years gives you a pat on the back and a pin to put in your hat that says you've been a 25 year. I'm almost there. I think this is year 15 or 16 for me for volunteering and working with the USGA and the Texas Golf Association. So
yeah, that's incredible. And you didn't even, we had this on the last episode. You didn't even start in Texas. You started in Oklahoma, and they didn't want you.
Yeah, well, I was a newbie and an outsider. I was a Texan coming into Oklahoma, and it's been nice because now I've reconnected with a lot of those guys. Like I said, today I'm in Guthrie, but I've reconnected with a lot of the guys in Oklahoma, and so I've got to come up here and work. Like the Big 12 was at Southern Hills. Oh my gosh, just magical golf course, Perry Maxwell design. So, but reconnected with a bunch of those guys, and when you're first out, yeah. You're the new person, and it's so the person in charge of running a tournament has to have some faith or trust that you know the rules, that you know how to interact with players, that you know how to handle situations, and that they can trust you to do it. There's not, because a lot of times as a rules official, we're just out on an island. You're out there in the corner of a golf course monitoring 3 or 4 holes, and you have a radio. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Radio and a rule book. And so, until it's your team, until the OIC, until you network and people know you, it's hard for them to trust that you're going to apply the rules correctly. Even though you may have a 95 on a score, level 3 in TARS or whatever else it is, but just because you've made a number or you've reached a certain level doesn't mean that you're a great person to be applying the rules out on the golf course.
So if someone wants to learn the rules, first of all, if someone wants to learn the rules just because they're starting the game,
right?
Not to be an official, just to start the game, what would you recommend they do to go about that?
I tell you, your website, Golf.AI, has got a lot of like little short snippet videos, like 1 minute, 3 minute videos over the rules. I think that's a really good starting place. USGA has got a lot of like short quizzes, like 10 question quizzes, videos that are also 1 or 2 minutes long. But and that's if you're just kind of wanting to kind of scratch the surface and kind of, okay, how do I handle a penalty area? How do I handle a cart path? How do I, what is nearest point of relief? What does that mean? But, once you kind of start getting into it, what I tell them to do is to just get a rule book. And, Lou Blakey's got a site.
General area.
Oh God, yeah, general area. And that's a great place to go. But I tell you, if you get with, I don't know in Australia how y'all's are set up, but y'all, there you go. It's a good Texan word, y'all. How y'all got it set up. But we have an allied golf associations all across the U.S. Texas Golf Association, Metropolitan, Northern California, Southern California. And you get in contact with those allied golf associations, and they will start helping get you orientated to being a rules official if you're wanting to dive into it. But my study tip, here's the biggest thing. For me, when I started making the leap from thinking I knew the rules to understanding the rules, when I made that leap, for me, what I would suggest everybody do, get a notebook out, set it down, open your rule book, and don't start with rule number 1. That's probably the worst place to start in the rule book. Go to like rule 14. Let's just go straight to the deep end. Rule 14, rule 18, and kind of read the heading and go write down, okay, this is what I know about how to drop a ball, or this is what I know about lost balls. And you write down some notes, then read the rule. Read straight through it, and then go to some of these videos like on your website, USGA's website, and listen to some explanations on the rules. And as you learn something new, write down what you're learning new. What is it that you misunderstood? What did I think I knew? Oh, you mean that a penalty area it's 2 club lengths? I thought a penalty area was 1 club length. Well, write that down. That penalty area is 2 club lengths. Oh, the ball has to stay in the relief area. It can't roll out of it. No, yes, the ball has to. So you write down the things that you didn't know or that you misunderstood, and just keep a journal of it, and then just keep working through rules. And when I sat down and kind of made myself do that, that's when I really made the jump to understanding the rules instead of, you know,
Do, do
and
you do you play a lot at the moment, Jason?
yeah, I do. Not as much as I want. Probably twice a week, 3 times a week if I can.
I mean that
I
that,
always have.
that is a good place to also to start
Ooh,
in learning the rules, right?
Clubland. So I played our men's league all the time. Clubland. I tell you, somebody asked me. They said, "Jason, why do you know the rules so well?" And I said, "Well, if you saw the guys I play with." So what I do a lot of times while I'm playing with guys is I'm sitting there reciting the rule that they're breaking while we're playing. Now, but I'm reciting it in my head. I'm not, please, people, do not take the club. Don't take your rule book to club golf. You're not going to make many friends that way.
Yeah, yeah. I
And,
mean,
and
I started this, obviously started this golf rules questions just because that was the easiest thing. The easiest way for me to learn the rules was just questions, was
yeah,
just asking people questions, asking myself questions, and then trying to find out whereabouts in the rules it was. Questions, questions has a bit of a competitive side to it. When there's a question, it's like, I want to get it right or wrong. I don't want to get it wrong. I want to get it right.
I don't get it right.
Whereas just reading the book for me was a bit too hard. But if I had a question in mind and I was looking for something, um, that was sort of what helped me the most.
And I tell you, probably the other bit of advice I always give people about wanting to learn the rules. Also, just start with the definitions.
Oh yeah,
9 times out of 10, if
yeah,
you know the definitions will answer your questions.
yep,
What's a
absolutely.
long ball? What's a ball in play, and what's a wrong ball?
Which is
What's a
which,
loose impediment? What's not?
which is kind of strange that they moved it to the back behind the rules. I always thought
Yeah,
that it should be. I always thought that it should be at the front. I was happy that it was at the front. I thought it was
yeah.
strange that they put it at the back.
And you mentioned that you kind of started in Clubland. One of the things that got me into the rules, I was president of our men's golf association, and I was that guy who kept going to the pro, going, "Okay, Johnny did this out on the course. What's the right ruling? Okay, Johnny did this out on the course. What's the right ruling?" And finally, the pro just backed in the big decisions book, and now our what do we call them, clarifications book. We had a big decision book, and he finally just gave me his one day. He says, "Here you go. Jason, just take this. There's an index in the back. Just go find it and you'll figure it out."
Yeah,
And so, and that's sort of like what you're talking about. That's how I learned a whole lot of the rules, was just trying to find it in the book.
yeah. That's a cool, it's, as I said, it's quite competitive. You're trying to find it, work it out, and a lot of these rulings or situations, they pop up once a year,
No,
once a decade. It hardly ever
I was,
happens.
or they, as they always say, it only happens on a test.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, I could write a test of all the
Yeah,
once or never
one time.
happens. Like
Yeah.
I asked a group of guys just recently, you're allowed to, and this one I don't know the answer. You might be able to help me out, but
Okay.
um, you can wear protective pants. You can wrap a towel around your legs as a way of protecting your legs, and
Right.
this could be next to a cactus. This could be because the ground is muddy and you want to kneel underneath a tree or something like that, right? You can do that. You can wear the protective pants. You can wrap the towel, but you're not allowed to put the towel down. You're not allowed to put the pants down and then
Yeah.
kneel on them. Okay,
Right.
I'm, oh, I find that grey, but I'm okay with it, right? I've accepted it. The thing that gets me is, what if you wrap the towel and then the towel falls off
Okay.
after you kneel down?
Right.
So
Okay.
now,
Let, let,
have
let's
you
see.
built a stance, or is it still wrapped around your legs?
Okay, so I always like this. And this is one of the great things about my brain, is that I treat like situations like. That's what they always tell us in rule school.
Yep,
Treat like this. Okay, you have lead tape that's on the back of your club.
yep.
Okay, and you go through and you swing the club and the lead tape falls off.
Okay.
What are you supposed to do now at this point?
You are allowed to replace the lead tape,
Right?
and if it doesn't stick, you can place new lead tape in the same position.
And so I would probably say the towel would be the same way. You
Okay,
can
so
try to reattach the towel to your legs,
yeah.
and if they won't, then you can try to get a new towel.
I like it. I like it. It's a never gonna happen, but now I think I've got the answer.
That's what like I said, it's part of your equipment in some way.
Yep.
So I would treat the like situations alike.
I like it. I mean, I the way I would sort of maybe look at it is, should we penalise that person? They've gone to the process of trying to wrap the towel around their legs, and now they're kneeling on the towel, which is what would have happened anyway. The towel has now fell off as
Yes.
if it had been laid down, which we would penalise them for that. But should we penalise them for this? And I'd probably similar to you. I'd say, oh, that's unfortunate. No penalty.
No penalty.
What's the Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake thing? Was it wardrobe malfunction?
Yeah, wardrobe malfunction. Yeah,
That's Super Bowl.
That was Super Bowl. That was a Super Bowl. Yes, we won't talk about it any farther than that. The young kids will be out there like Googling that one.
yeah, Jason, because young kids listen to this podcast.
Hey, I was sharing Golf.AI with a bunch of the junior golfers this weekend.
Yeah.
So you never know who's going to be listening to it.
So actually, that's a great call. Like, Golf.AI with juniors, at least they won't have to talk to adults, and they'll just be able to ring up or text. They love texting, so that works really well.
The Golf.AI thing is right up their alley.
That's right.
When I think junior golfers, I'm talking like the 13 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah. That's what I talk about. Yep.
Yeah, and to them, they're used to it. Just pick up my phone and ask the question.
Yep.
Yeah, and most of the time, they're out if they're playing with their friends at their high school tournaments or whatever else, and they know their coach doesn't know the answer to it. I mean, and that's what I was sharing with them. I said, guys, how many times y'all been out and y'all are trying to do a qualifier for who's going to be on the travel team, and you get into an argument on a situation? I said, there, Golf.AI, just pick it up and use it.
Yeah,
it'll be faster than trying to hunt it in a rule book, which none of y'all know how to read anyway.
And this is a bit of a tangent, but going off how to learn the rules.
Right.
One of the things at Golf.AI, I do need to teach it a little bit more, and everyone can help as well. If you do know the rules really well, go and use it, right? And if you know that the answer is wrong, tell it. Just say, hey, that's incorrect. Okay, so good example. And because I will not say that Golf.AI is 100%. I'd love it to be, but it's not. But here's a good example. I asked it what a best ball was. Do you know what a best ball is?
Yeah.
It's a type of four ball where you play against other people, a group, a team, or whatever.
Right. Two on two. Like, are you talking now?
It's like 1 on 2 or 1 on 3.
3, right? But their lower score against the other team's lower score.
Something like that. I've never played it. I know where it is in the book, but I've never played it. And
really,
no. What is it? A variation of this form of match play known as best ball, where an individual player competes against a side of 2 or 3 partners.
Right.
So 2 or 3 playing against 1.
Right.
So it's a modification of like type of best ball, type of four ball.
You're like
type of four. It's type of 4 ball, but it's only 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3. Right. Anyway, I asked it and it said something along the lines of a 4 ball is blah blah blah, and I go, no, I didn't ask what a 4 ball is. I want to know what a best ball is, and you need to read paragraph 3 of 23.1 or something like that, right? And it comes back and goes, oh yeah, sorry about that. You're correct. I've read it now, and a best ball is 1 person playing 2 or 1 person playing 3. So we can help. I mean, if you know AI, if you understand AI, AI is about artificial intelligence, but how it learns. So I would I'd love it if every referee, highly skilled rules official, got on there and told it when it was wrong.
Okay.
That would be so helpful to the overall, increased intelligence of it.
Okay.
Instead of going
Because
from
I'm going to start
80%,
using,
it
I'm going to
goes to
start using it
90.
like crazy. I'll wear that thing out for
Good.
you.
Just go for it, and you've got the phone as well. So in the US, so you guys can just ring up Jim or Chris or whoever it is. I should get my voice on. No one would understand my voice if I had it on there. But
Can I get? Can it be like Google navigation or Apple, the maps where you can change the?
yeah. It on the phone we've only got one voice. It's the American voice. But on the website, on the browser,
Yeah.
you can have whatever voice that we've got. We've got about 12 so far. There's two Americans, I think, or three Americans. There's a Spanish lady. There's a Kiwi lady. There's an Englishman, an Irishman, Indian lady. It's there's plenty of sort of options there. And I mean that would
Nice.
be a cool thing going down the track where the pro or the rules person at say Texas Golf
Yeah.
Association or Texas State Golf Association, if that person they could just plug in their voice and send it out to all the clubs in that region. They'd go, I need to ask Brad, and then you're asking AI, but it sounds like Brad, the rules guy from Texas.
Okay, I'm gonna dive way deeper into this now because
Oh,
all I've
it's
done
huge.
is looked on your YouTube channel and seen all the clips of you using it and everything else. So now you've got me. I'm gonna sit her. I'm probably on the drive home, and I'm just gonna keep calling it on the
Yeah.
drive home.
Yeah, keep calling. And if it gets it wrong, just say, hey, you got that one wrong. You need to, sometimes it has, and this is what I was sort of getting at. Sometimes it has like difficulty, and I can understand why it would have difficulty. And, this is going back to how to learn the rules. There's a big difference between the English language and the rules of golf language.
Yes,
They're both English, but
but
moved is a good one. There's a couple of
honor.
others. Yep, that's so those type of things where you know what it means in English, but what it means in the rules of golf is not totally different, but quite different.
Right.
And so, whereas a new beginner would struggle with that, AI can struggle with that a little bit, and it needs to sort of understand the context. Dropping a ball. It will only think of dropping a ball, and then it will go, okay, the rules of golf says that dropping a ball, the ball becomes in play or whatever. But it needs to know, it needs to learn what the intention of the person dropping the ball. If you say accidentally dropped or I dropped, it thinks that's the same thing,
Oh, I got you.
right?
Okay.
So I dropped is I put the ball in play, or I wanted to put the ball in play.
Right. I dropped the
I
ball.
accidentally dropped. I was walking to my bag and I accidentally dropped. It would still think the ball was in play, and it's like, no, you need to learn, especially if it says accidentally, then you didn't have that intention. So those are little things, why it's not going to get to 100%. But if you like some of the cool things about it, and this wasn't, I know it's presented by Golf.AI, but this wasn't a all about a paid promotion of telling Golf.AI, but just explaining it to you. You can go on there and I tried to ask it how many full stops are in the rule book. It didn't come back to me with the answer for that, but I asked it how many times is clearly unreasonable in the rule book, and it came back in about 25 seconds and said that it was in there 12 times or something. Like if I
Okay.
asked you, Jason, tell me how many times clearly unreasonable is in the rule book.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Reasonable judgment, all those little things. Okay, how many rules require reasonable judgment? That type of thing.
Okay. Well, all right. Yeah. I mean, there's no way. I mean, my brain is not. I mean, I know the rules of golf, but I don't think of the rules in that way. I'd have to stop. It would take me longer than 25 seconds, but I'd have to stop and think through each rule and go, okay, would that be in that rule? You know, this is something going back to learning the rules of golf. I remember when I first started learning the rules of golf, USGA would send us out these notebooks. They were like a spiral bound,
Oh, yes,
and
I've
it
got one of those. Yes.
yeah, you know what? And it would have like a word or a sentence or a scenario, and then it would say, okay, how many, which decisions
Yep.
apply to this, or how many rules, or what are the rules that apply to this, and it would give you a hint that there might be like 3 rules and 10 decisions, and then it forced you to have to go and find them in the rule book and learn how to navigate the rule book.
The
I thought that was a really good thing. And so, kind of going off what you're talking about with AI, like how many times is reasonable judgment in there? Well, that would be something that would have been in this notebook. Like, go
Yeah,
find all the places that knowledge or virtual certainty is mentioned.
the RNA, and I don't know if they still do it, but when I last did the TARS course, TARS is Tournament Administrator
Yeah,
Referee School.
yeah,
When I last did, they would send out a pre-tournament, a pre-TARS workbook, and that's exactly what was in the workbook. Um, you know, how many times is this rule here? How many penalties? It was more than just true false. It was go and find what rule
yeah.
number this term is written in, or something like that.
How many times? What are all the rules and clarifications that this term is used in?
Yeah, yeah, and
And
and and that was a big help to learning the rules, because then you're navigating your way around the book, and the amount of times I would read and I go, okay, I found it, but then I'd read on the next sentence or the next sentence, and the next
yes,
paragraph,
the whole paragraph that it's in. Yeah,
and I go, oh, I found something new. I'd be like, oh shit, I didn't know that, and you're like, and then you're
exactly.
writing that down, and you're like, oh wow,
Then
I
I'm
didn't
writing
know.
that down
That's right.
exactly. No, and that's exactly. I mean, that's how I started learning the rules. Also, was out of that. And I tell you, and the one that USJ, this is you were talking about just being competitive also against the rules, because the one USJ would send out, it would tell you like, okay, there's 5 instances or
Yep.
7 instances. And I would sit there and end up spending like an hour trying to find all 7. No,
Yep.
it's not good enough for me to find 3. No, it's not good enough to find 5. No, I want to find every one of them. And so
That's awesome.
especially back then in the decisions book, man, I'd be going through that index like crazy.
Yep.
And then what I tell you, the other cool thing that taught me was how all of the rules work together, because you would find an instance. Okay, hold on, dropping the ball. Okay, it's not just rule 14, it's rule,
Yeah.
16, 18, it's rule 11, and so all of a sudden you're going, holy crap, dropping the ball
Yeah.
it's,
Interconnected. Here's,
yeah,
I was having a discussion with someone about, and I'm not very good at this, so he probably was almost going to get me, but where, like, the penalties for moving a ball are all under Rule 9, right?
no, yes and no.
Right.
I'll
That's
go with you.
yes. That's the okay. So if you see, this is the argument. If you move a loose impediment and you cause your ball to move,
Yeah,
then all about moving loose impediments is under Rule 15, 15.1.
right.
So do you get the penalty under Rule 15.1, or do you get the penalty under Rule 9.4?
Well, but if you read 15.1, what does it tell you?
Well, this is what I was trying to get at him. It says that if you cause your ball to move, you get a 1-stroke penalty under Rule 9.4.
Exactly.
And he's like, you got to quote 15.1. I was like, well, you don't, because the penalty's under 9.4. It doesn't say under 9.4. It doesn't say you caused your ball to move by moving a loose impediment. That's not under this rule. You have to go to Rule 15.1. It doesn't
What is it
say
like?
that.
The flag stick, God bless it. One time the flag stick was in like 7 different places. If a ball hit it or if you hit the player attending a flag stick, it was like,
Doubling
and if
up.
you hit,
Yep.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
That one used to just drive me crazy because it was like, okay, but where do we give the penalty under
Yeah.
if okay, but was the person on the green? Were they off the green? Did they do it while the ball was in motion? Was it deflected? And all of a sudden you're in 6 different places of the rule book, and
So I've got a ClubLand story here. They haven't given me the nickname, which is fine. A small gum tree, 3 meters
Okay.
high, 3 meters high with a 4-inch diameter trunk. I love how he's using metric and imperial at the same time. 3 meters high and a 4-inch diameter trunk. On the first hole, on the edge of the fairway, has a ring of bark chips around it. It's the only
Okay.
tree on the hole with this ring of bark. It's not staked or under 2 club lengths in height. Should I get relief if I'm in the bark chips? Or he means if he has interference with the bark chips? It's just the bark chips. It's not the tree.
So it's like the bark hanging off the tree?
No. You could call it wood chips. Do you call it wood chips?
Wood chips. Okay.
So
it's bark on, it's wood chips when it's off. There
yeah,
you go.
it's someone's taken that and put it in a wood chipper and turned it into wood chips and then put it around. Yeah. And so have they turned it into an artificial object, or is it just ground under repair possibly? He's asked the club president, and the club president said that it's a garden bed and relief is possible. But this person doesn't agree and thinks it's just to play it as it lies. What's the rule? So let's say, Jason, there's no local rule.
No local rules.
And we just have to work out whether it's ground under repair, or it's a movable obstruction, or it's an immovable obstruction, or it's integral object.
Well, the way that I've always played it is that they're loose impediments, and you can move any of them as long as your ball doesn't move.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, and so if you need to move some to do whatever you feel would make it so that you can make a better stroke, as long as the ball doesn't move, you can move any of them you want to, or as many of them as you want to, as long as the ball doesn't move. And then I'd look at you and say, play hard, let's go. I just believe it.
I'm in agreement with that. I think it's just, especially if you're just in the rough. I mean, I'd even say the same if you're in the fairway, but I'm like that. But what I want to know from you is, if you put wood into a wood chipper and turn it into wood chips, have you put it through a process that's made it now an artificial object?
So
I don't know the answer to that.
Ice. Now we're back to like the ice scenario again. Is it manufactured ice, or is it still temporary water? Until somebody puts something on a notice or a local rule,
I agree.
I'm just going to say that it's still a loose impediment and not.
Loose impediment /2, when loose impediment becomes obstruction, loose impediments may be transformed into obstructions through the process of construction or manufacturing.
Right. Okay.
Have you putting it into a wood chipper, have you done any construction or manufacturing?
See, and that's where I say no.
And I agree.
Now, see, this is what my brain thinks of whenever it says, construction or manufacturing, is whenever you take a tree and you make it into a bench.
That agreed. And if you take
that bench is obstruction.
If you take rocks and put them, turn it, making a wall out of rocks.
Or to hold a cooler or something.
Right.
Yes.
Have you constructed or manufactured to make it into something?
Yes. Now it's an obstruction.
So the wood chips, have you changed it into something? I mean, it would be very hard to say that it was an artificial object, simply because if bark fell off that tree and was exactly the same size as the wood chip parts of the wood, of this ring a bark or whatever, it would be too difficult to tell if that was a movable obstruction or a loose impediment.
I guess somebody could also get into it because I have a friend of mine who owns a mulch business, and they actually do treat and do some chemical things. They grind up trees and then they put it into the bags and they make mulch.
Mulch
And
and wood chips, same thing.
Yeah. And so they do some things to that mulch so that it lasts longer and looks prettier around your house.
Yep.
And so, is that manufactured?
Yeah, that's
through the process of construction. Could be transformed. And see, now here's the key word. You know what the key word in loose impediment /2 is, though?
Transformed?
No, may be.
Okay.
It doesn't say it is. It just says that it may be. So once again, until somebody puts it in a notice or local rules, I'm still sticking to loose impediments.
Okay. I'm in agreement with everything that you said. I think
and this is where we get back to where lawyers wrote this crap.
You said it the best when you said they just need to write a local rule for that. They say, they need to say wood chips or mulched areas are loose impediments, or just say they're natural. If you just say they're natural, then there's no relief for as an obstruction, either immovable or movable. And they're natural. They're definitely going to be loose impediments, and that's you've fixed it.
Also, I don't want to deal with players if you say that wood chips are now obstructions.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, I don't want to deal with that out on a course because
we did that. We had at Mexico. They had some off the path, and the path was concrete. So that was an immovable obstruction, immovable. But then just off the path, they had these piles of wood chips. It must have been that the path had been worn down or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so I think we gave relief for the wood chips that were adjacent. So each single one was a loose impediment. But as a whole, you could get relief if they were adjacent to a cart path.
Now, the same thing with rocks. We do that all the time with rocks and gravel.
Yep.
Rocks and gravel are loose impediments, but if they're adjacent to a cart path, then they're considered to be part of the cart path.
Yeah. So I think in this case, it's up to the committee to make sure that they write on their local rules what they want it to be and how the player should treat it.
And once again, if this is happening at men's league golf, just decide over the bar so that next week y'all don't.
Right, we've got an audio question from Jason's friend Ken from Texas. So let's play that one.
Hi, this is Ken from Texas. I've got a question on a ball. If it is plugged in the face of the bunker in the sand, what are my options on that particular item? Thank you.
So as you said, this happened recently.
Yeah. Do you want me to give the whole backstory on this?
Yeah, go for
it. So this actually happened at a U.S. Open qualifier. Final stage,
okay.
Final stage U.S. Open qualifier. Professional golfer. And Ken, phenomenal rules official in the state of Texas, great friend. And he was telling me a story, and I was like, dude, you got to send this one in. Because it seems so simple. I mean, if you have a certain level of knowledge of golf rules, you hear this and you go, oh, well, the answer is obvious. Why are we discussing this? It was a tour player that it happened to and argued with Ken because he didn't like the answer that Ken gave him and ended up asking for a second opinion. And we all know in the rules now, you're not entitled to a second opinion, but I can obviously go get one if it makes you feel happier and it makes you put a ball on the ground and hit it and let's get on, And so what the player wanted was to drop out of the bunker for one penalty stroke and take an unplayable lie, back on line, take the flag stick, take the ball, go back on line out of the bunker, drop. And so when you first read the unplayable ball rule, it says back on line as far as you want. But what you have to do is then you have to read about when the ball is in a bunker.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to take it up from there and tell us what our options. We have 3 options, maybe 4 options.
Yeah,
for an unplayable.
the interesting thing is that unplayable for outside of penalty area, because penalty area has its own thing under 17.1.
Yeah, you don't get unplayable.
So 19.1 is outside of penalty area, and it's also outside of bunker. Because 19.2 is when your ball is in a bunker.
Right.
Right? So 19.1 is in the rough, in the fairway, on the green. Those places, I guess there's no other places. But 19.2 is bunker, and that's because they give you this. They keep you in the bunker.
Right.
For two of the options, and they allow you outside the bunker for one option, and then the other option, stroke and distance, it just depends where you last were. So you could be in the bunker, then you have to stay in the bunker. If you were off the tee, then you'd go back to the tee. So option one, previous place played, wherever that was. That could be in a penalty area, that could be in the fairway, that could be in the bunker, same bunker. Could be in a different bunker. Option two, back on the line, inside the bunker. And then option three, inside the bunker, 2 club lengths, half circle. They're all one-shot penalty. And then your fourth option, which they brought in 2019,
Yay!
2-shot penalty, back on the line, outside the bunker. And you could drop into a penalty area. You could drop into another bunker. But it's going to cost you 2 shots.
Yes. All right. So a wonderful explanation of this. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is to get completely out of the bunker. If you didn't start in it, let's preface it with that. If you didn't start in the bunker, if your shot that got you there was in the bunker, to get completely out of the bunker, it's going to be 2 penalty strokes.
Yep.
And most people forget they don't, and that's what the tour player didn't understand. He thought it was just 1 penalty stroke.
Yep.
And that's and that was added just in 2019. Actually, is when that was added. So
did Ken say which option the player finally went with?
The 1-stroke, 2 club lengths in the bunker.
Oh yeah, okay. Because I mean, I wouldn't. You don't see. I don't know if I've ever seen a professional use the 2 penalty strokes. And actually, this is one of my questions that I always try and trick people. When is there a 2-shot penalty in match play?
Oh, God bless! Don't do this to me on.
Well, yeah, I'm just giving you the answer, so you just got the answer.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, getting out of a bunker would be a 2-stroke.
It's the only 2-shot penalty. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Every general penalty is and it says that in the 19.2.
Yeah.
It doesn't say it's a general penalty. It says it's a 2-stroke penalty.
2-stroke penalty. Now, what about everything else?
Regression is total 2-stroke penalties.
Right. Yeah. Everything else is accumulation penalties, like having a caddy multiple times, or
Yeah, and that's a general penalty for each breach.
Yeah,
and then
where you would accumulate.
Or and then the other one for clubs is in match play is not accumulation, not a loss of hole.
It's a
adjustment.
Adjusted where they adjust the match.
Adjusted score. Adjusted whole score or whatever, match score. Oh, just a match score penalty.
Now we're getting off into crazy things.
That's right.
I used to sit around and think about it. It's like, how quickly could I lose a match in match play?
Oh, okay. I worked this out under the old rules, and we're obviously a lot better with the old rules. I think I worked it out, and you might disagree with me. I can't remember, but it was either 4 and 15 or 5 and 14. I
think it was 5 and 14. That's what I was thinking.
It was incredible. I loved it. It was like
multiple caddies, too many clubs. I mean, there was I forgot all the adjustment penalties.
Turning up late or something.
Late. Yeah. I mean, you could be like 5. You could be like 5 down after 1 hole or something.
That's right. That's what it was. It was something like 5 and 15, 5 and 14. It was unbelievable. It was like, oh yeah, I could. Everyone was like, 10 and 8. Everyone was like 10 and 8's the best. I was like, no, it's not.
podcast. Y'all work it out and send us the comments. Send us the email.
Actually, I should go. I should golf.ai, but that's. I mean, I'd have to say golf.ai. AI, go back to 2018 and tell me the quickest way you could lose a match.
All right, so here you go. Another ClubLand story that just happened today. I had one where ball was on a cart path, and it was 14 yards to the flag stick, but it was like the cart path and the flag stick were like in a perfect curve. And so it's like, so now we got to figure out where the nearest point of relief is, but the flag stick, it's on a perfect arc with the cart path. And so we were trying to figure out where 14 yards would ever be where he wasn't on the cart path. And we put a tee down on one side and went to the other side and shot it with a rangefinder, put a tee down, went back to the ball. And I said, which tee's closer? And he looked at me and he goes, well, shouldn't you tell me? And I go, you're the player. I said, you're going to have to live with this, so then he went and stepped it off. He got nervous. And so he stepped it off. And I was like, there you go. And he goes, I think this one's closer. And I said, there you go. There's your nearest point.
Have you ever had the situation where you've had two nearest point of complete reliefs?
Yeah, actually number 9 at Lakewood Country Club in Dallas.
Yeah.
And it happens quite a bit there because and this was actually on number 11 of another course that we were at. But yeah, I mean, you get that, and it's the exact same, and you just got to choose. I mean, the players just got to make a choice, which one, and at that point, it might be which one you have a better lie to drop in.
I had one at World Golf Match Play at Austin Country Club.
Yeah, beautiful course.
On the 12th hole, the par 5 down the hill.
Yeah.
And there's that road that goes just under the hill. And a lot of players would get onto that road. And I stepped it off chicken steps. So just 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot.
1 foot, yeah.
I stepped it off for the player, and I was like, I've got 6 or 7, whatever it was, for both. You choose whichever side you want. And he went and made a choice. I was like, I've never had that before.
No. Well, I tell you, sorry. Now here's another good ClubLand story is TIOs, like fans. We have tons of fans on post around greens here in Texas.
You call them TIOs?
Yeah, we always on our notice and local, we call all those fans as TIOs.
Which is funny because they're technically always there, aren't they?
Yes, the fan can be taken off the post. These fans, a lot of these fans, they can be taken off the post to be serviced or maintenance or whatever else.
Okay.
But
so, I mean, are they temporary?
Yeah, the post isn't, but the fan is. But we play them as TIOs. But we also put in the notice to the players that they get to choose. If that TIO is interference, they could choose either side of the TIO. And it is so funny when you see a player and their eyes light up that they get to choose to go to either side, because 9 times out of 10, there's one side that's way better than another side.
Yep.
And I had one the other day. Oh my gosh, it was a junior USM qualifier. And the kid, and I sat there, I said, before you touch that ball, I said, let's measure out and figure out what's going to happen, where you're going to end up, because he was on a cart path that was going to end up. And once he did that, he was going to end up dropping behind the TIO. And then from behind the TIO, he was going to make another drop. And here's a crazy thing. If you drop from a cart, if you're taking obstruction relief from a cart path and you end up dropping in a situation where you have TIO interference, can you then take relief for the TIO back onto the cart path?
No.
Yes, you can. There's no restriction on the TIO where your relief area could be. It could be on the instruction.
Sorry. You have to take full relief from the TIO.
Right.
If you're taking full relief and that's dropping on the car path, that's fine. I thought the way I was thinking in my head was you were dropping back behind the TIO, and so that's right. Yep, that's right.
And so then the player, so I was working through this with the player. And so then the player realized, okay, I'm going to take relief from the cart path, and that's going to get me over here by this TIO. Once I get to the TIO, then I'm going to get to drop again, and
Oh
I
my
could drop onto
God.
the cart
On
path.
the other
And
side.
so then we start working it out, and
Wow.
he ends up he's on like hard pan next to a boundary fence where he's basically got like about 3 feet of room behind the cart path to get to the green that's about 5 yards away from where his ball is. He ends up working this out, and I told him, I said, "Don't touch the ball." I said, let's work through this and see where you're going to end up before you decide to do it." And he ends up getting onto some nice, beautiful grass. Had like a little 7 yard shot, then off of grass, no interference from anything. And his dad came over to me later. He goes, "Thank you so much." He goes, "That was a whole lot." And I said, "Well, it was only 2 obstructions and a TIO. It wasn't that much." And the TIO, because the TIO, the way we word it on our notice to players is you get a 1 club length corridor away, and then you get another club length that you drop in
Yep.
away from that corridor.
Yep.
Once you choose which side or not that you're going to drop on, so you really end up getting 2 club lengths of relief from a TIO, which
That's
is,
right.
I mean, it's a long ways. I mean, it's 100 and something inches
Yep.
when you use drivers. So.
Yep. That's spot on.
And the kid was wonderful through it because he was asking me questions all the way through it and everything else. It was a really good little educational moment and everything else. And the parents were very thankful. But man, it pays. If you got fans on your course and things like, if those fans for keeping bent grass cool or things
Yep.
like that in their TIOs, it pays to know that rule.
Yep.
That one, that's but anyway, from the
That's
world
good.
of club.
The world of ClubLand. I mean, I like to, you mentioned it before, I like to think of ClubLand as almost the situations that don't get on TV. That is,
Yeah.
for me, that is ClubLand. It is, the amateur golfers. It is the people who don't have referees. It's the people that have to ask the pro shop for rulings predominantly. But, if you're out there with a tournament and it's a junior tournament or a senior tournament, or a pro-am or something like that.
Right.
That's still, I still consider that ClubLand.
Yeah, or your men's league. I mean, I can't tell you how many times in the men's league, they'll see me. I'm probably playing in the tournament with them, and I'll see somebody waving at Jason. Like, come over there, and of course, we're playing men's league. We pay we'll pay $30 or $40 when we tee off to be into the men's league for that Saturday or Sunday or whatever else, and they'll call me. This is the funniest thing, Dave. They call me over. They ask me what the ruling is, and then I drive away and I turn around and as I'm driving away, and guess what they do?
The opposite.
Whatever the hell they want.
They're like, no, we can't listen to him.
And it's fine.
It's unfair.
I
shouldn't be dropping off a cart path into worse condition. That's not fair.
Okay, yeah, that's we all did. Of course, we get, we get back to the bar and and everybody's talking about their round, and then of course they always walk up to me and the one guy goes, "Oh, Jason, when are we ever going to get relief from divots?"
Oh my God.
In the fairway, and I just shake my head and I said, "Never, you're never going to get relief."
If we do.
Well, we should. And so I said, as a matter of fact, I said to a guy the other day, I said, "How about this?" I said, "I'll start giving relief from divots every time that you have a good lie in the rough. You let me come over and step on your ball."
Yes, that's right, exactly right. The day that we give free relief from a ball and a divot is the day that golf dies.
Nice, absolutely.
Because golf is not about hitting it down the middle and having a perfect lie, even though a lot of people think that's exactly what golf should be. That's not what golf is. That's the opposite of what golf is. Golf is about hitting your ball and dealing with what you've got and then playing on and having the mental fortitude, the character to accept the bad lies, the good breaks and whatnot. That is actual golf. Golf is not about perfect. And unfortunately, in this day and age, people seem to want to make it about being perfect. And it's that would be horrible if we ever lose it.
Boatwright said it best. We give you 18 perfect lies. How many more do you need?
Yeah, spot on. Spot on. Spot on. And the way greens are these days, they're almost so much better. I mean, Augusta when it first opened the speed was 7.5.
Yeah.
Now it's
Now
13. Yeah.
13.
So
No lie. Have you? Sorry, and I've got to run, and I know you've got to go too.
yeah, I gotta go. Let's go.
Have you watched the Bryson DeChambeau's playing a public golf course?
I've heard of it, and I've watched maybe the trailer. Some of the takes are awesome.
Bryson said it best. He said playing public golf courses is way harder than playing professional golf courses.
Because you don't get the perfect lies.
Yeah, we don't have any perfect. You have no perfect lies.
Yeah, which I actually would. When the PGA when the PGA said no to free relief from preferred lies at the recent PGA, I was so happy about that. I wanted to watch them have mud balls.
Yes,
I think that's real golf.
It is real golf. There are rules in place for embedded balls. There's rules in place for temporary water. Play freaking golf. Do not let them put their hands on the dang ball.
Yeah.
It's live clean and cheat. I don't care. Sorry.
I agree. I love that. Live clean and cheat. We say that. Are we playing live clean and cheat today?
No.
I love it. I want to watch them play with, I've got a mud on my ball. Instead of going for the hole, I'll just make sure I, hit it low, roll it along the ground, try and get to the front of the green, then chip and putt and make par.
Right. Well, but also just the better players. If you have some mud on the ball, and you can look at, if you're a good player and you're experienced if you've played with mud balls before, you know that mud on certain sides of the ball in certain ways in certain situations, how that ball is going to react. And that's just because you're a better player.
That's
right.
But
if you never have to deal with mud balls, you have no clue.
That's right. It's a skill that's being lost.
So, all right. So everybody, here's the situation. Your ball is lying near a loose impediment. You walk up to your ball and you start to remove the loose impediment. And as you start to move the loose impediment, you see that your ball is going to move, or that your ball is moving. And your ball does move. So you put the loose impediment down and the ball comes back to rest as to where it started. And you call in a rules official. What is the ruling?
Right. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jason, for joining us once again. This won't be your last time, I'll tell you that. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you again.
Hey, and I'm gonna bang out on your GOLF.AI.
Go for it.
I've got to drive back home on Saturday, and I'm just going to drive home and keep asking it questions all the time.
Please do, and please teach it what you know, and it can only get better. I mean, it can't get worse, so it can only get better. And I mean, I work for them now, but I have such belief in it that this is going to be such a great technology for the masses of the clubland people.
Yep.
And it will teach them how to play real golf as well. So that'll be fantastic. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers.